welcome back. It's our last presentation for today and for the 2 days that we've had for presenting the National 2020 Pineapple Support and Porn Health Summit. The final presentation is going to be a very interesting chat. It's a panel with one of my favourite characters, Alex Compte from Seven Veils Media, absolute legend. I'm going to pass him over to him now. So, we've also got Natassia that's just joined us, but I'm going to pass him over to Alex now so that he can then lead the way. I just wanted to leave on a final point. If everybody please could, if anyone is available to make any donations to help Pineapple support and push us forward in the future, then that would be fantastic. But on that final note, I love you all. Thank you all for being present and helping us out, and have a great presentation and panel. Love you. Bye, guys.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kelly, for the introduction. And thank you so much, Pineapple Support, for everything you're doing for this industry and for everyone. And the topic today is actually super interesting. It's something that we don't talk enough. And I would like to first welcome our panelists and our experts. Can you please, guys, introduce yourselves?
I'm Akira Noir. I am in porn, and I'm really happy to be here.
Welcome. Who else is here?
Hi.
I can see.
I'm Asa Akira. Nice to meet you all. I'm also in porn. I've been in porn for almost 13 years now. I am Pornhub's brand ambassador along with Akira Noir. And I'm just like really excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
And Colton?
Oh, I was going to let the ladies go first because I feel like that's the respectful thing to do.
I think on my display, Natassia is here. I'm sorry, honey. I couldn't see you on my display.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Natassia Dreams. I'm a porn star, and I've been in the industry for about 16 years.
And I'm Colton Reece. I have been around for just 2 years, but super excited to be with these giant superstars. I mean, even as a gay, I know who these people are, so.
Well, thank you all for joining. Really, I'm sure it's going to be very interesting because you guys are icons of our industry, but you also have a lot to share because you have a real personality. So there is so many interesting things to enjoy today with you. And thank you very much for taking some of your time to exchange with us. So I think the first thing we can talk about is what does it mean actually to be a porn star? Because the topic today is how to treat your favorite porn star. So according to you, what does it take to be a porn star, or what it is to be a porn star? What does it mean in everyday's life?
I feel like the term porn star has taken on new meaning pretty recently. It used to be that you would have to be a mega star, like really well known and like shot by big companies like Vivid, in order to really feel like you've earned the title of porn star. Now, amateur porn, I feel like, has exploded, and it's so easy to control your own content and put your own work out there. So there are a lot of people who will have their favorite porn stars, but even though they don't have like huge fan bases, they still have very dedicated fans and can do well making their own porn. So I feel like a porn star is just, it's a case-by-case basis. It's whoever the person watching the porn thinks is their star, in my opinion.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, and there's been like, at least on, I don't want to like make two separate sides, but at least on the gay side, I mean, the conversation about porn star has evolved so much that people just don't like even using the term anymore. Everyone puts on their Twitter profile, porn actor, porn performer, adult model. So I like that interpretation. It's in the eye of the beholder, it really is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. I think it has really taken on a new meaning, and it's like ever evolving. And, you know, I think we're in such an interesting time in porn right now where, like, you know, when I first got into porn 100 years ago, I remember everyone telling me, you just missed the golden age of porn, which was this time when DVD, VHS, and internet all intersected and people were making stupid money. And when I got in, like, it wasn't like that. It was like porn was kind of on the decline, and, you know, studios didn't really have budgets anymore. And now, like, I think we're actually living the golden era of porn right now, which is when amateur is just booming and we can all be our own bosses, our own producers. You don't have to wait around for someone to hire you in order to make money. You can just go out there and like make a name for yourself. And I think that's like an extremely like cool, progressive, feminist way to be doing porn. So like, I feel really lucky, and I agree. I think like once you do porn, you're a porn star. Like, I don't know. I don't really have any hangups about like calling. I don't think like you have to like suck dick 7 times, and I don't know. Like, I don't know that there's like a criteria for me.
Okay. Natassia, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I agree what Azza said and everybody says. I feel like if you have the nerve to do this job and you put your body and your mind and your spirit into it, and you've even shot one movie, you're a star, because it takes a lot to be in this field, and like, you know, body issues and talent and STIs, etc. So if you invest even that one time to make one movie, and you want to call yourself a porn star, and you personally believe, just, you know, because you've done movies and you work with other people and you filmed it, I think you have every right to be able to call yourself a porn star. I mean, there's levels to them, you know what I mean? It's not everybody's like, not everybody's a porn star, but then, you know, there's award-winning porn stars, there's veterans, there's this, there's like other categories. But yeah, I think that all of us, whoever has the nerve to do this job, should get the ability to put the star after the porn.
Okay. So now let's dig to the hard part, because we are talking about how to treat your favorite porn star. Do you think that as a woman or as a gay guy, is it harder than straight men to be in porn, to face the audience, the fans, you know, the pressure, society in general? Do you think that it's the same for everyone, or do you think that being a woman or a gay porn star, is that something that helps you, or that you have to fight harder?
I want to chime in because as a transgender woman porn star, like, you know, when I get approached by people on the street, like the comments that they make to me are never PG correct, you know, and they feel like they have the confidence to say these random things to you about sizes of genitals, or how you take dick on camera, or do you think that they're worthy of being in porn, which I don't really see them do that to my male counterparts or my cisgender female counterparts. As a trans, like, we're already fetishized and sexualized, and in porn, it's like on steroids, because then like everybody's like, oh, you know, I saw her on these movies. Like, so when I see her in the train station, true story, and I'm having lunch waiting for my train, and this guy comes to me and he's like, oh my God, yes, I know you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, great, you know? And he's like, can I ask you a question? And immediately my response was, would you be able to ask any women in here that question? And of course the answer is no. You know, it's like totally off the line topics. Like, you shouldn't say that to a stranger. And just because you see a person on film and you know them by name, that doesn't give you the right to invade their personal space and their privacy, especially in a public setting. So I don't know. I've seen I've been with male porn stars, and they just like get congratulated. Everybody's like, yeah, you're the man. But, you know, as a trans, we're looked down as, you know, that we spread STIs, and like a lot of people don't want to work with us. And there's this whole stigma of trans performers that we really need to break. Like, you know, I've been in this industry for 16 years and I've never had one dirty test. You know, and besides my male counterparts, many and female had canceled shoots on me because they have dirty tests. So it's like, it's very difficult as a trans performer, because you have very less respect, less than the men, less than women, less than everybody. And then people feel like they can automatically come to you any way they want to, which is not correct at all.
Yeah. I've had many dirty tests. But
Spoiler
yeah.
alert.
I will say, like, I think often like, I think often also the stigma is that like women are seen as like porn is happening to us, right? Or like we're victims of these really unfortunate situations where we have been put into porn, whether it's like against our will or like in order to fuel our drug addiction or like, I don't know, fund our pimp or like whatever. And we're usually often seen stereotypically as victims of porn or sex work. So yeah, like for sure, to me, that's like the most infuriating thing is like no matter what, there are people in the world who can't believe that like we find porn empowering and we enjoy it and we're doing it because we want to and not because we couldn't do anything else. Like I hate when people are like, oh, why are you in porn? Like you're so well spoken or whatever. And I'm like, no, like literally I want to do porn. This is my number one choice. So I think, yeah, like for sure, it does seem to me like that would be true, that like women seem to have it a lot harder than cis men.
Well, 2 points to add and build on that discussion. I mean, the first being that pushing away from describing health panels from being clean and dirty to just respecting that having an STI, an STD, HIV, whatever it is, isn't an implication of somebody's cleanliness, but rather just an implication of somebody who is an adult, who chose to be an adult, engage in adult activities. And we all work to move forward and understand that. And I say it intersex is because, I mean, this is an industry where people obviously fetishize who you are, who we are. I mean, nobody logs on to Pornhub to literally just sit there. I mean, most likely there's a bottle of gun oil or Swiss Navy and a hand ready to go. So it's trying to find that intersection between, obviously there's a purpose to this product, and applying a level of education and understanding behind the framework of what's existing when you do want to approach somebody or have that conversation, right? It's all fun and fine when you're enjoying yourself, but realize that there's more to it, and asking people to be educated is a difficult thing.
I have had a lot of comments about, usually the two things people say to me whenever they recognize me, they ask if they can fuck me and they ask if I can get them into porn. Like it's like a secret club and the way to get in is just to go back home with me and fuck me and then boom, you're a porn star too. But something that has been happening recently, I started a new social media profile where I'm not promoting my porn stuff at all, where I'm just making stupid videos and just being kind of a normal person. And the comments that I get the most on that social media platform is that it's weird seeing me as a normal person. And there's so many people who are like, oh, I tried watching one of her videos after looking at her profile and now I can't do it. Like I feel so guilty about a real person. It's like, what do you mean? Like I've always had a life behind the scenes. And then there's some people that it's just so normalized to dehumanize the people that they're watching in porn and just consider them this sex robot that doesn't really exist once after they come. And so whenever they're confronted with the idea of like, hey, I'm a person and I do normal shit whenever I'm not working and I enjoy my work, I like doing it. And then I also am just a normal human being whenever the cameras aren't rolling, it fucks with them. And they're so ready and okay with admitting that they've been dehumanizing me this entire time. So that's something that I think is weird. And I wish that we could have less of a stigma on sexuality and sex work specifically. That way people didn't do that automatically. I feel like most people aren't really watching porn with the idea of, okay, and I feel like this person is less than me and could go. And like that's how they go into it. It's just a thing that's just so ingrained in our culture that it's in the back of their mind automatically.
There are so many interesting... Yeah, please tell.
One thing that I want to add is like, yeah, I want to piggyback on Kira. Like, people think that just because we have sex on camera that we're like these superheroes and we don't have a life and we don't have emotions and like we're horny all the time on the drop of a dime, and that's just like a myth, and we have to like get rid of this myth. Like, we're people behind performers, just like actors. You know, Charlize Theron, when she goes and plays a killer, you don't walk up to her and like afraid that she's going to pull out a gun on you. You know, it's a performer and you're playing a role. So people have to get to know that we're people outside of the role. And the role that we play is, you know, we perform in sex work and we do movies, but at the same time, there's nothing different between us and everybody else. Like, you know, we bleed, we cry, we sleep, we need to eat, you know, and shit happens. So this is like a myth that we have to break, that we're like these superheroes, and just because you saw me on 3 movies, like you have to like shake when you see me somewhere, or you have to like get on your knees and like, oh my God, I can't believe I seen you. Like, it's okay, bro. Like, I'm human just like everybody else. I'm in the store, I'm going to the train, like I'm on a flight. Like, it's not that serious.
So it's actually an excellent transition with the next question, because what you're sharing right now, all of you, is very rich in terms of information and perspectives and point of view. So as I mentioned about the empowerment, for example, and it's true that it's a little bit our fault too in marketing and porn businesses, because we are playing with people's desire. So of course, when somebody is excited, the brain is working in a different pattern. So I wonder sometimes if it's not our fault to make people a bit primitive or anything. Do you feel that there is a kind of burden for you to carry a certain extra weight by working in porn, or do you think that it's empowering?
Situation. There are definitely times where I've done scenes. I can still set my own boundaries or work with people that I have huge crushes on and put out something that's really funny that I'm proud of, something really artistic that I'm proud of. And I feel like that is extremely empowering. The only time I feel like there's a bit of a burden to it, I am kind of just a shy person whenever I'm not doing porn. And I know for a lot of people that doesn't make any sense. But I will sometimes try to like go out of my way to cover up my hair, like put my hair underneath my jacket and put my hood up. And now I'm wearing a mask all the time, and I have these ring finger tattoos, and so I wear like gloves or long sleeves to try to hide that. That way I have extra assurance that nobody will recognize me. And I don't even get recognized that often. Just sometimes I don't want to deal with the questions that some people are just super comfortable asking. So that's the only time I feel like it's a burden. There's no like one way I feel about porn. It feels a little bit weird, but whenever it feels weird, it's not because of what I'm doing. Like, I like my job and I'm proud of the stuff that I've done in porn. It's the way other people treat
me. I would say that the biggest burden of porn for me is like, I don't like that people look to us as educators, and I don't like that people hold us responsible as educators, because that's not what I signed up for. Obviously, like at this point in my life, I can recognize that that's just like the reality of it. A lot of young people learn about sex from porn. So yeah, like it's impossible for me not to feel personally like kind of responsible and like, you know, feel it as a burden, I guess. Obviously, I think, you know, I don't think the answer is like make tailoring porn for young viewers. I think it's more like we need to up the sexual education all around the world so that people don't look to porn for their information about sex or like their initial introduction to sex. But yeah, like I feel that that's kind of a burden. But yeah, like, but both things, I guess, kind of like Kira said, I don't feel any one way about porn. I feel that it, in that way, it is a burden, but I'm also like hugely empowered by it. Like I am proud to be doing porn, and I'm like proud that I am a woman, you know, taking charge of her sexuality and doing whatever she pleases with her own sexuality and her own body.
Whoever wants to add something.
I think the only burden for me is porn is that, like I said, people have this like persona of you as trans, you know, that you're like super dominant and you want to like ravage their asshole and like pin them down and like take control of them. And so like you have like the stigma, like either you're like this ravishing like top and you're gonna like punish them when they're asleep and like pin them down, or that there's also like this persona that you're like, okay, like I'm gonna suck your dick like at the drop of the dime. Like, you know, and you see me in the street and like you're gonna tell me, oh, hey, do I have a big dick? Or oh, compared to the guys that you work with. And I guess it's the burden because people are not educated. The people need to be educated that, you know, this is a job just like everything else, and that we're people too, just like everybody else. And also for as Black trans performer, it's a burden to maintain like a high stature because they always want to like put you down and like below everybody else, but below white performers, you know, like you always have to like fight your way for the same recognition and the same treatment as everybody else when you perform just as hard in chess, etc. So that's like one big burden that I've had in porn. And also like, for me as a trans, the matching of the talent, like it's never, usually you're not included. And so like you show up to set and you're like really grossed out with the person that you have to work with and you don't have any say of it. And then you have to like do, or it's like their first time and you have to like go extra and you're not attracted to the person and it's their first time and it's like extra work. Or they throw like someone else in there in the mix and you're like, hey, I didn't sign up for this either. Like this is supposed to be one-on-one, like not another thing. So I don't know, as a trans performer, I feel like we get the shortest end of the stick because when we don't have representation, like agents to like fight for us and call if anything's going wrong. And number two, it's just like, they have this stigma about like, okay, you're like gonna come in and you have to fuck like every hole in the room. And you're like, wait a minute, like I have a hole too. Like I want something in my hole as well. So as trans, it's like this masculine persona that they always put on you that I've been trying to shake for my whole career, you know, and whenever I want to like have sex with someone in my personal life, they always feel like they have to like overcompensate for what they saw me do in the movies. And I'm like, listen, like that was a movie, that was a one-time thing. Like my body was killing me after all of that. Like, don't think I'm gonna do that every time that I have sex. Like it does not happen.
To piggyback off of that, I mean, one of the, Akira described me in so many a way. I mean, I am incredibly shy in person. Meeting new people is difficult. But as an Asian American biracial individual, and props to Pineapple because I just realized looking at this screen, I mean, they put the most diverse panel they could possibly have put up here. But a lot of people message me about being Asian, and I, like so many other individuals in this nation and probably around the world, still struggle with what my identity is and how it is linked to the color of my skin and my national origins. I mean, I was just talking before we went live about, I know nothing about Japanese culture. And so when people come up to me to ask me about being Asian in this industry, it's difficult for me to have, because I respect it, that presence that I bring as somebody who is not white, or, you know, I mean, Asians are probably one of the most underrepresented groups in this industry. But it's hard for me because I can't speak as that experience because I've never identified from it. I speak freaking French and English. So that's one thing that I am struggling with, and I'm trying to put words to and to further that conversation because I'm discovering it's important and people care and they want to hear that.
Absolutely. Speaking about your fans, how do you feel on a, of course, I understand that you will feel good and bad, but in a general tone, speaking about your audience and your fans in a regular daily life, how do they make you feel? Is it more positive or not?
I think it's generally positive. Now, thanks to social media and things like OnlyFans, it's really easy to connect with fans. You don't have to go to a convention, especially in times like this. You can still talk to the people who know your work. And I feel like even when I get questions that I get too many times, or I don't really like the implications of, it's still generally positive, like they mean well. And trolls are easy to identify. Like usually if somebody's saying something mean, it's just because they want any kind of reaction. Like I don't even really see the hatefulness behind it anymore. Like it takes a lot to get under my skin with troll comments, just because most of the time they're just lonely and they want to get any kind of response from you, even if it's a fuck you. But I really like my fans. I feel like now people talk to their favorite porn stars online so often that it's less weird than it was maybe 10 years ago.
Interesting.
I love my fans. I love my fans to an extent because, like I said, some of them cross the line like so much if they see me out, and they totally like disrespect me in my space, and they want to touch me, and they want to say like vulgar things to me in public, which is not the way to go. Like you wouldn't do that to anybody else that you see. Like if you saw your favorite actor from a movie, you wouldn't go up to them and be like, hey, do you think my dick is big enough? Like, you know, so, but I do love the support that I do have from my fans that I've had from my beginning. And, you know, like a lot of fans have grown up with me through the years since I've been in the industry for so long. And like, yeah, I was watching you like 10 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. Like, I love that support, but then, and I love like they keep following me and they know all my work and my outfits and everything. It's very supportive. It gives me drive to keep it going. But then, like I said, like I'm shy just like everybody else. So when I'm out in public, that's the last thing I want is like people coming up to me and recognizing me and saying vulgar things. You can come up and say hi and say, you know who I am and you love my stuff. And I'm the sweetest person, but like at the same time, I'm very shy. I'm very like, you know, I don't like to be around crowds a lot. So like, I don't really like when people are coming to me and causing a lot of tension and like acting like if they see a ghost when they see you in public.
Anyone wants to, maybe Asa, do you want to share something?
I don't know if I've really only had like positive experiences, except for like molested ones at an airport, but like I wouldn't call that person a fan. So I don't know. I don't know if I really have much to add to that. I like the fan aspect of porn. Like I enjoy being recognized, and when people come up to me like, oh, I was just jerking off to you. So I'm like, for me, like I'm cool with all of that.
Glad that you met my dad.
None of us would exist without it. Oops, sorry.
True. No, I'm sorry. I'm doing silly jokes. Colton, do you want to add something?
No, I mean, the only thing I was going to add is none of us would exist without fans. So, I mean, there's this sincere appreciation.
It's true. Is there any? Yeah, I think for everybody who is watching us now, and there are millions, I think it's very important to keep in mind the difference between shame and shy, because we are hearing that some of our friends tonight are shy in their real lives, and it doesn't mean at all that they are ashamed of what they're doing. No, we are. I think we're all very proud of sucking cocks for a living, and because you guys, a lot of people are also, the fans are doing it for free, and that's where I think, okay, that's weird. You shouldn't do it for free that much. Do you want to share some unexpected situations that you have faced with your fans, positive or negative, some memories, you know, to understand the situation when you're a public person, the stress you can face or the happiness you can face thanks to your fans?
Sometimes I like to just look around my apartment and think about how I have all of this stuff, because there are some people that like to look inside my butthole. I feel like that's pretty fucking cool. I have had like some interactions with fans that were really funny at the time. Like the first time I went and got my own car, the person who was selling me the car knew who I was and decided to share with me that he was supposed to be cutting back on watching porn, but he was still secretly watching porn in the bathroom whenever his girlfriend wasn't paying attention. He loved watching my videos the most. And I was just sitting there like, hey, maybe you shouldn't lie to your girlfriends. Like the middle of getting the car, like having a conversation with this man about why he shouldn't hide his porn watching habits from his girlfriend, and like respect and boundaries in a relationship. And just, I feel like we came out of that like, in a good way. Like I got a car, and hopefully he went home and was a little bit nicer to his partner. So stuff like that, it's when I say that I'm shy, I love that you say that there's a difference between shame and being shy. Because the way I like to describe it to people is that I have a really hard time feeling deep shame, but I get embarrassed about little stuff really easily. It's the big stuff like doing gangbangs or swallowing jizz that I'm fine with because it's fun. It's funny to me. Like sex is hilarious. But like other little actions, sometimes I just want to walk my dog and not have to talk to anyone, whether they recognize me or not. But no, I feel like most of the time whenever somebody recognizes me, it's pretty positive. And sometimes really funny if they start to tell me about their lives and I start to tell them about mine. I've also followed some rappers after like finding some new artists' music, and then they immediately follow me back and they're like, oh my God, I watch your porn, which I think is really funny too. Has that happened for you guys, where like you're a fan of somebody in the mainstream world and then it turns out they know you? It's a fucking trip, right?
That's the best. I have to say, like for me, like when a celebrity slides into my DMs, I don't even need to fuck them. I'm like, I already got my trophy. It's the DM.
Yeah.
Just knowing you could have it is like the winning of all winning, in my opinion. And I hope you got a good deal on that car.
I feel like I'm still driving and I like it. It's fine.
Oh, Pumpkin wants to say hi too.
Oh.
Super cute.
I remember I had a really horrible experience, and I was in Dubai a couple years ago, and you guys know like being trans and gay in Dubai is like against the law. So I went there like on a trip, and like I planned some things that didn't work out, and I was like really ready to get out of there. So it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going through customs, and you know, Dubai airport is like huge, bright lights, like 7 in the morning, you know, the guys are there with the typical white outfit, the customs agent, and I'm just like ready to get out of there. So I hand the guy my passport, and he's like, you know, he like does the normal thing, looks at my passport, and then he looks at me and he's like this, and then he's like, I know you. And I'm like, no, you don't. And he's like, yes, I do. And like, you know, he's like going to hang me back my passport. And every time I go to reach for it, he's like pulling it back. And I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, yes, I do. And I'm like, no, you don't, you know, because I'm trying to like save my ass. And I don't want people to know that I'm transgender in Dubai because I can go to jail. And I'm like, no, you don't. He was like, yes, I do, Natassia Dreams. Uh-oh. And like my heart like literally dropped. It's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm in customs in Dubai and I'm trying to get out of there. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna go to jail. He's like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Tia Seduction. And he's like, the only thing is you have a little dick. And I don't know, like, I'm sure his supervisor saw my face in the camera, like my jaw like hit the ground. And then finally he gave me my passport back, and I like literally like snatched my passport and like ran through customs because I didn't want him to like report me or anything, and like I would stay in Dubai like illegal. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. It was so horrible, like the worst experience ever. A positive experience though that I've had is like, you know, checking into hotels and people know who you are in Vegas, and they're like, oh yeah, hi, it's AVN or something, and I'm like, I'm nominated, and they're like, oh yeah, sweet, let me get you the suite, and like, you know, like hook things up, like good things happen. But like usually, like I said, as when you're trans and you get recognized, it can go either way. I've had actually more bad experiences than good because people automatically cross the line. automatically. Just say the most vulgar things, like reach out and try to touch you, and always give their opinion like if I asked for it. Like, I didn't ask for your opinion, like keep it to yourself. So like good opportunities happen because, you know, sometimes you're like out or whatever and you're in a club and you meet a nice guy and he's like, hey, like secretly he'll be like, hey, I'm a fan of yours. And you're like, oh, okay, like, yeah. But other than that, like, it's a touchy subject. It's always very difficult. Like sometimes I wish that they don't recognize me. So like I do like sometimes cover everything up and like just try to be as incognito as possible, because you never know what you're gonna get when you interact with fans. And that's what I think fans need to work on, is their approach. You know, if you see any of us in the streets, you should approach us just as you would approach your best friend's sister or your best friend or your aunt or anyone that you've never been sexually active with and you've never seen naked, so you don't have that confidence. Because at the end of the day, when you see us on the street, we're not that person that you've been watching on the TV, on the screen, and we're not prepared mentally for whatever you're going to tell us. So this is what I think the fans need to work on, because just because they're in that mindset when they see us doesn't mean automatically that we are.
I think I think that that's like a true, like a good representation of what you were saying earlier, Alex, is like when we're watching porn, like all of us, even me, like we have like boner brain, right? When we're watching a porno. But like, so I think people do feel kind of like an automatic, I don't know if it's an entitlement or like an intimacy that they automatically feel with us when they see us in the real world. So yeah, like that definitely happens. But one thing that I actually like love about meeting fans out in the real world is like, I always feel like just by coming up to me and being like, hey, I like your porn or whatever, I already feel like we're automatically in this club where it's like, we're perverts. Like there's no like, I mean, so much of my life is spent like pussyfooting around with like real life people, right? Like when I'm getting my hair cut, I don't know if this person is going to be like some crazy religious anti-porn person or like whatever. Like a lot of my life is spent worrying about that. So when someone is like, hey, I know who you are, I'm automatically like, okay, I can let my guard down a little bit and like make asshole jokes, you know? So it's, I guess there's like both sides to it.
Mm-hmm. No, and whenever we say that porn stars, however you want to call us, are normal people, there are some people who are nymphomaniacs and they really get off on being recognized and they love it. There's some people that are super shy and everything in between. So I feel like it's better to err on the side of caution, and instead of being, hey, why didn't you gape your asshole like bigger in your last scene? Like, I don't understand, like right off the bat, you can just start with, hi, big fan, and then leave it at that, and like let them keep engaging with you if they want to, rather than just being hey and like too much all at once and not ending the interaction even if we're giving small responses or obviously busy doing something else. But yeah, like we're just humans, and there are a lot of different types of humans, and you don't know which one you're going to get until they give you like some feedback. I'm like, oh no, it's great that you're a fan of mine. Like sometimes like I'll be in that mindset back whenever bars and stuff were a thing, where I'd already be a couple of drinks in the crowded bar and somebody would say they were a fan, and I'll be like, okay, so which video do you actually know of me? Like, can you describe it for me? Because I want to know which one. Like sometimes I am ready to do that. But it would be really nice, and it would be a nice show of respect if you would wait for us to engage in that kind of talk in public. And I guess now, because everything's shut down around most of the world, that online, you don't have to be rude to get our attention. Like, you don't have to say off the wall shit just because you can. You can talk to us like normal people, and we'll be way more likely to remember who you are and talk back with you, especially if you sign up for our OnlyFans. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what I love the idea of saying, yeah, it's like we are in the same club, the perv club, because I think one of the superpower that for sure, the positive superpower from this industry is that it opens minds. And it's true that I think the fans are coming, and sometimes, okay, they don't really know, they have to work on their approach for sure. most of them, but it's also, it's nice because we are talking about a taboo. So sometimes they are afraid of their own sexuality, about they want to try some stuff, DP, fisting, whatever. And then seeing you as the object of their desire. And it's like this cool friend where they can talk about their frustrations and their expectations in life. So that, I think that's very interesting. But at work, I'm exposed to a lot of fan mail, and my best friends are from this industry too. So of course, I'm hearing a lot of stories, and I'm always very tensed, very nervous when there are a lot of fans. So I love the AVN Expo, for example, because they are doing a great job, but it's also very impressive to see how people treat you and how people approach you. And I'm glad to see that it's very often positive, but it's also very scary because I'm reading the messages and I'm like, that's a lot. And so my question is, how do you deal with this? Because you're nice people in real life, and your job is based on relationships, and you're very thankful to your fans, and each one of you is a very humble person, which is also why you're giving so much time and advice today. How do you deal with the situation where you have to set boundaries to people that sometimes they even subscribe to your OnlyFans, just like how Akira was saying, and you have to set boundaries, so it can be hard, but how can you do that? Are there any tips or anything you could share?
I think actually I think like what you're talking about, like the things people say online for me are completely different than the things people say to me in person. It's like night and day. It's as if like there are two worlds that just never meet. And I think, everyone sets their boundaries in different places. Like personally, I don't do any kind of messaging or DMing. That's just me. Like I don't like get off on it. So it's like not fun for me. And two, like I just don't do it because there are so many like I'm pretty like sensitive in that way, and I'll get like depressed really easily. So for me, like it's really important that like I put my mental health first and I avoid things that like bring me down. And I found that like, man, like messaging with people online really brings me down. Like it'll ruin my whole day if I read like 3 people say mean things to me, which happens a lot online. Whereas meeting, doing conventions or signings, meeting people in person back when feature dancing was a thing, you don't really get a lot of that. Like for me personally, like maybe I just got lucky with the fan, like a certain kind of fan base or whatever, but like I don't have to like expose myself to that as much. So for me, it's really just the difference of like knowing like what I can and can't do and what's worth it for me and what's not. And for me, that's just like, I just don't communicate with people in messaging or online. Like I just don't.
Living in Hawaii gives me a nice large geographic separation from most of the world. I mean, I don't participate much in events and parties and whatnot, so I can very easily erect the boundaries, no pun intended there, that Asa just described. I mean, I don't particularly respond to very many DMs unless something particularly interesting falls into my inbox. And I think individuals need to understand that. I mean, I'm not here to be your best friend, but I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you enjoy what it is that I get to put out onto the whole internet. But the boundaries, yeah, that's the main thing.
I just asked.
Oh, no, go ahead a second.
Sorry, I just asked that when they come up to us, they respect us. That's the only thing, and I will start that out from the beginning. If they're like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" or if like someone like even on my OnlyFans is getting like, and I'm not in that, if we haven't went there yet and they start to take it there, I say, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I am a woman and you have to respect me. And that's all I ask. And usually, they clean it up really quick, but I guess they just try to shoot their shot just to shoot it. But all the time I like shut it down. I'm like, hey, you need to respect me. I'm a woman, you have to respect me. And oh, well, you know, I'm so sorry, because they'll come up with some vulgar things and I'm like, okay. So either I ignore you or I command respect. So what I've been doing is commanding respect so that I can let them follow suit on other performers as well if they do get a chance to meet up with anybody else. And I just tell them, hey, whenever you meet any of us, talk to us with respect. We're people. I will respect you if you will respect me.
Mm-hmm. So I do have messaging turned on OnlyFans, and I do tweet back at people and respond to comments and all of that. And online, it's great because if someone says something I don't like, especially on OnlyFans, I can just say, hey, please don't talk to me that way. I don't appreciate it. And if they keep going, I can just block or mute or whatever I need to, and then I never have to think about that person ever again. In person, usually if I'm trying to set a boundary with somebody, it's more of a thing of, sorry, I can't talk right now, or like, no, I don't really want to take a picture with you right now. And if they try to keep going, I'll just ignore them and keep walking. I have like a taser and pepper spray just in case somebody doesn't get the message after that. And thankfully I haven't had to use it. But most of the time online, like Natassia said, if you just say, hey, I don't appreciate that kind of talk right now, like I need you to cool in a little bit. People are well-intentioned for the most part, hopefully, and will not want to intentionally fuck things up because they want to keep talking to you, right? They like having that interaction. So as long as you listen to us, if we say, hey, cool it, then that's great. And like I said earlier, just err on the side of caution if you're very worried about accidentally crossing somebody's boundaries. I feel like it's always a little bit better to be a little cautious and be overly cautious than just kind of steamroll ahead and accidentally hurt somebody's feelings or make them uncomfortable or feel unsafe.
Kira, I think that's such a good point. Like that, I agree with you that like I think most people are well intentioned, except for like trolls. But I think, you know, especially like even in person, like I think most people have good intentions. Like if someone is your fan, they just want to show their appreciation. But I think like it is also, you know, it's also a little bit unfair for people because it's like there's nowhere for people to learn how to talk about sex, right? So like already it's this shameful thing and it's like this secretive thing and like we don't know how to act. Like in porn, you know, like porn is sex is so normal for us because we're jaded about it. Like it's our, like we wake up and breathe and like sleep sex and porn, you know? So it's like for us it's so easy to talk about like, oh, I love this position, this is the kind of sex I like, oh, have you ever pegged someone, like whatever. But for most people out in the real world, like it's not easy to talk about sex. And like so I think when they're presented with someone they've seen having sex, it's like this very like confusing and like I mean I think they just like kind of don't know what to say because they've never been taught. And like, you know, before porn, I probably was that weirdo too. Cause like I was never taught how to talk about sex or how to talk to a porn star. So I think it's really important that we have these like conversations like these and normalize sex. And like, you know, I think it's also, I just think it's unfair for people too, that like we can't expect them to know how to talk about sex because no one's taught them. And that's unfortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think everything can be said or done if it's with respect. So, but it's true that it's, of course, the fact that we are dealing with sex, it's a taboo, but it's also the fact that when you see someone you really appreciate, like if we meet, I don't know, Angelina Jolie or whoever that we could be fan, and there is this moment of like, oh my God. And it's true because even with us in the industry, I remember I was at a show and one of my best friends just came back to the room and he was like, I just met Akira in the elevator. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. What did you say? I don't know. I just smiled. I didn't know what to say. It was funny because, and then you did a podcast together with Diego Sanz. And it was funny because we're like, okay, but you should expect people from our industry to know how to interact and how to react, and sometimes you don't even know how you would react.
My favorite.
Sorry.
No, you're good. My favorite porn star is Skin Diamond, and we had the same agents whenever I first got into the porn. And the first time I met her, we were at some sort of porn party, and my agent just turns to me and is like, hey, you're a fan of Skin, right? She's right over there. Let me introduce you. And I was just like, wait, what? And like he brought her over, and she was very sweet. She's like, hi, how are you? I'm Skin. Nice to meet you. And I did not know what to say. I was just like, hi. I just sat there and didn't do anything. So I know what it feels like to like see somebody that you've watched online so often, like not know what to say. And not even know where to go, because I can't start with, hi, nice to meet you. The first porno I ever watched had your face on it. Like I didn't know what to do. So it also made a really great point where it's like people really grow up knowing how to process these kinds of feelings towards sex workers specifically. And just with people that you see online that you become a fan of, even with mainstream, some people go a little crazy. So just try to be a nice person and you should be okay.
I mean, it's a little common sense though. Oh, sorry. It's a little common sense. Like the things that they say to us, you shouldn't say to anybody outside of someone you've been intimate with and you have confidence with. And especially not when you run into them in a train station or in an airplane or something. Like this is not, and I feel like I get kind of upset because I'm like, it's common sense. Like you wouldn't tell this to your best friend's sister that you're trying to talk to. You wouldn't tell this to this girl that you like from your job. You wouldn't come up to her and be like, hey, do you think my dick is big enough to be in porn? Like, no, you would never do that. So people need to think, like use your common sense, like your manners that your parents taught you may have been a long time ago, but refresh it in your head and think about, okay, you know, I see this person, are they gonna feel offended if I talk to them? Is this question or this comment gonna make our relationship stronger or break it? Will they wanna continue to talk to me? Just use common sense, everyone. It's not really that hard.
You actually just reminded me of something. And like, I used to, before all of this, I used to fly a lot. I used to fly like 6 times a month. And one thing I think like people, you know, because being on a plane is boring and there's a lot of hours to contemplate whether or not you're going to talk to someone and stuff. And I think like one thing I really appreciate that I've seen a lot of times is someone will wait until the end of the flight to say something. And I think that's just like, that really shows so much kindness and consideration because yeah, like on an airplane, I'm like asleep with my mouth hanging open. And like, it's a really like self-conscious, you know, like it's like when you know someone's watching you, it's really hard to like do things. And I don't know, it just makes me like very, very weird automatically. And I think it's so nice when people say at the end of the flight, like, hey, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan or whatever. I think that's so kind. And like, you didn't have to put me through the excruciating 6 hours of like feeling very awkward because I know someone's like watching me. So I think that's like super cool. So that's like one tip for the airplane, like waiting until the end is really appreciated.
Absolutely. Okay, so we are almost at the end. So I would just like to be greedy and take advantage of having you all online to ask for the newcomers, do you have any tips or advice that you would like to share with them so they can get prepared about how they will interact with their fan base? Any tips?
Know your boundaries, stick to them, and know that you don't owe anyone anything just because you're in porn. I feel like there can end up being this feeling of, I need to give the people what they want, and like even if you're not cool with like having those kind of conversations out in the open, or you're trying to be like overly nice to fans, like if a fan is bothering you, it's not wrong to mute them or block them or remove them from your view online. If somebody in person is being too much, then you have every right to say, no, I'm not comfortable with that, please leave me alone. And the fact that you do porn does not mean that you no longer get to set boundaries. In a more general sense, save your fucking money, please. Guys, I was really stupid with my money like the first couple of years I was in porn, and I just started saving a couple of years ago. And I just had somebody the other day ask me online, like, wait, aren't you rich now? Like, you've been doing this for such a long time. Like, you've been in so many movies. And I'm like, well, I was a dumb slut when I started. So no, I'm not rich. So please save your money. Please have a savings account. Please make sure that you are paying your taxes correctly and that you're writing off as much as you can so you can save even more money. Trying to think of some more advice. Oh yeah, it's always great to have your own content library backed up for the days you don't feel like making porn. If you're having a really good day, like you're super horny, you're having a fun time filming your own stuff, keep filming a bunch of videos and save them for the days you don't want to put anything out. That way you don't feel like you have to constantly be turning out content. You can like have some days to chill. And that's the advice that I can give right now off the top of my head.
I feel like you should command respect. You should know your worth. You should never sell yourself short, like, or do anything that you don't want to do. Communication always, if you feel uncomfortable about a scene partner or testing or anything, make sure you communicate that. Also, if you're new, try to seek representation. Have somebody that has your back in this industry, because it's very cold, hard world alone if you have to deal with all of these different factors that we have to deal with as a talent, and that helps you just focus on your performing. As a trans, you know, I have one quarrel I have with trans models, and you know, like, keep on top of your bodies, you know what I mean? You can invest $2,000 in hair transplants and Botox and fillers. You can go to the gym, you know, our job is working naked and shooting, you know, and I think you feel better when you're confident about your body, you know, like, invest in yourself a little bit too, you know what I'm saying? It's not all about hair. It's not all about lip injections. You know, guys like to see a nice body having sex with another nice body. So like, try to invest in yourself, gym, yoga, also for your mental. It really helps your mental. Try to like meditate and, you know, just try to become one with yourself. Try to become the best of you that you can be, so that when you go to work, you can present a good persona and you can command the money that you deserve.
I think, you know, I mean, I have not been around that long, so I can't speak from a repertoire of history. But as it stands right now, most people are entering through those fan-based platforms. So it's a whole different world. And people who enter tend to, at least from my perspective and what I've seen, have this idea of themselves that they think to be true and they hold to be true. And that's a really strong and powerful thing. So many people now who are showing up to a professional set have already been on OnlyFans for a year or so. Like they're not like somebody plucked them up from the bus stop and was like, hey, do you want to come do some stuff with me? So, you know, it really is a whole different world. And I think that's really quite excellent. So, I mean, I don't have any particular advice to say. Everyone has covered the bases so beautifully there. But I think times have changed and people see this in a different light. They see the world in a different light, and there's an empowerment behind it. I mean, this whole year, and if you followed anything on the Twitter and the Instagram, I mean, people have opinions now and they are not shy in the very least fucking bit from sharing them. That's great, mind you.
Yeah, I also think, you know, I think like one thing I try to keep in mind and, you know, like, I try to keep in mind that like people have these preconceived notions about what a porn star is or what a sex worker is. So I try to like, no matter who I'm interacting with, like out in the real world, I try to like really, really show up as like my true, authentic, normal self. I think like the more people see us being normal and like being nice and kind and also like even kind to each other, like within the porn / sex work industry, like I think that like really in the age of social media and stuff, like I think that really helps in normalizing us and just like humanizing us. I think so much of it is about to change because of social media and stuff. Like I think people are slowly seeing us as human beings, not always great, like Kira said. Like sometimes people are like, I can't jerk off to you anymore because I've been objectifying you all this time. But like it's I think like maybe we're hopefully, maybe this is me being just like totally optimistic, but I think we're maybe in like the awkward phase right now where we're going through those changes, and I'm hoping that like in a few years it's like, you know, it'll be totally normal. Like everyone will know a sex worker, and it won't be this like hard thing to imagine, like dating a sex worker, or like, you know, like I think, yeah, like, so my advice would just be like, keep in mind, like, yeah, be your true self, but also keep in mind, like, you're representing sex workers and we're already a marginalized group. So like, make us look good.
Can I add on that actually? Because I now do have one piece of concrete advice that I ask emphatically on the be nice. For the love of freaking God, when you are sitting behind your computer screen and you are about to write something, take a moment and ask yourself, is what I'm pressing send on going to contribute anything positive, or am I just being an asshole? Am I just purposely just being a fucking dick? Just take a moment and ask yourself that, because I mean, 99.9% of the time, you probably don't need to post that. And you're gonna save yourself a whole lot of heartbreak and difficulty down the line if you just proofread what you wrote. That's like my one concrete piece of advice.
I will say, Colton, like, man, after like being in porn this long, like, I mean, I don't even know like what the message is here, but like, I will say, like, I'm someone who like basically grew up on social media, like from, I mean, in the public eye, I should say. I got into porn when I was 23, you know, I'm 36 now, like, and there are so many things I've said that I regret. And half of me is like, well, you know what? Like, that's the human experience. We learn and we grow and we become better people. And like, if we don't do that, then we're just like, you know, that's a whole other problem. We're like emotionally stunted. But like, I think definitely keep in mind that the things you say online, they will come back to you 20 years later. Like, people remember and they will bring things up. So just keep that in mind.
It's way too easy to hide behind a cyber nickname or an avatar. People are really hardcore and trash. I have actually also a piece of advice for the newcomers. You're not entitled to accept anything. If you don't want to accept, if something bugs you, you don't have to accept it. Just make sure that don't take it personally, because most of the time the person is talking about a character and a fantasy, and they don't know the true person behind, and they tend to forget. Sometimes I wonder if I would meet Bruce Willis and there is a catastrophe and I would just look at him like, save the world. But yeah, so the time has come to the end. Really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, you all, for sharing your experience and for being so nice and giving of your time to Pineapple Support, sharing experiences and giving tips. It was really, really interesting. Thank you all so much. We wish you the very best.
Thank you for having us.
We wish you a lot of success and happy holiday season. Take care, be safe, and wishing you a lot of success for the next year. Thank you so much.
Yay. Happy holidays, everyone. Big kisses.